You've got a list of repairs sitting on your kitchen counter right now. Maybe it's been there for a few weeks, maybe longer. You know something needs to get done. You've already gotten a quote or two, and now you're trying to figure out where to start. Here's the problem. Some of those repairs you're about to pay for might not fix the actual issue. Some of them might make things worse, and a couple of them might not even need to be done the way your contractor is suggesting. Hit subscribe before we get into it, because this channel is exactly the kind of information you need before you write that check. I'm Jerry Davis, and after more than 2 decades in construction and renovation, I've watched homeowners spend thousands of dollars solving the wrong problem. Not because they're careless, because nobody sat them down and explained what they were actually dealing with. That's what I'm here for. By the end of this video, you're going to have a much clearer picture of which repairs are worth every penny, which ones need a second opinion, and which ones your contractor may have pitched you in a way that doesn't fully serve your interests. Let's get into it. The first one is popcorn ceiling removal. And look, I get it. Popcorn ceilings are ugly. They trap dust, they look dated, and every real estate listing you've ever seen that had them also had photos that felt 30 years old. So when a contractor tells you they can skim coat the whole house and make those ceilings look smooth and modern, it sounds like a no-brainer. A few $1,000s, your house looks updated overnight. Here's what no one tells you before they start scraping. Popcorn ceilings applied before 1980 have a very real chance of containing asbestos. Not every single one, but enough that you can't assume. And here's where people mess up. They either skip the test entirely because they figure the odds are in their favor, or they get the test, but they don't account for what a positive result actually means for the project cost. If that ceiling tests positive, you are no longer doing a cosmetic renovation. You are now in hazardous material abatement territory. The scope changes completely. The cost changes completely. I've seen homeowners budget $4,000 for a ceiling refresh and end up spending $14,000 because nobody tested first and the contractor had to stop mid-project. What should you do instead? Before anyone touches that ceiling, get it tested. A certified asbestos testing lab will charge you somewhere between $25 and $75 per sample. It is the cheapest thing you will spend money on during this entire renovation. If it comes back clean, great, proceed. If it comes back positive, now you make an informed decision. You can encapsulate instead of remove, which means you coat over the existing texture rather than scraping it off. That's legal in most jurisdictions, significantly cheaper, and it eliminates the exposure risk without triggering full abatement. Does it look exactly the same as a fresh skim coat? No, but it's a whole lot better than an unexpected 5-figure surprise in the middle of your project. And don't let anyone pressure you into skipping the test because the ceiling looks fine or the house was built in the 80s, so it's probably okay. That's not good enough. Test it. Always. The second repair on this list is window replacement. This one drives me nuts because it's one of the most aggressively marketed home improvement products in existence. You've probably already gotten a flyer in the mail about it. Maybe someone knocked on your door. The pitch is always the same. Your old windows are costing you money every month in energy bills. New triple pane, argon-filled, low-E windows will pay for themselves. You'll save on heating and cooling, and your home will be more comfortable. Here's the part they don't put in the brochure. The payback period on window replacement, in terms of energy savings alone, is typically between 15 and 30 years. The windows you're being sold often carry a warranty for 10. Do that math for a second. You are rarely, if ever, replacing windows to save money on energy. You might be replacing them because they're rotted out, because they don't close properly, because they're single pane and you live somewhere with genuinely extreme winters. Those are real reasons. But if a salesperson is standing in your living room telling you that new windows will dramatically lower your utility bills, and you should act now because the rebate expires Friday, that is a sales pitch, not a renovation plan. Here's what to check before you commit. First, are the windows actually failing? Open and close every one. Check the seals. Look for fogging between the panes, which means the seal has broken and you're not getting the insulation value you think you are. Look at the frames. If you've got solid wood frames that aren't rotted and the hardware still works, those windows might have another 20 years of life in them, with some weather stripping and a coat of paint. Second, if drafts are your primary complaint, check your attic insulation and your door seals before you spend $20,000 on new windows. In most homes, air infiltration is coming through attic bypasses, recessed light fixtures, and poorly sealed doors long before it's coming through properly functioning windows. Fix the cheap stuff first. You might be shocked how much of your comfort problem disappears. Now, if your windows genuinely need to go, replace them. I'm not telling you to live with broken windows. I'm telling you to make sure window replacement is actually solving your problem before you sign a financing agreement at a kitchen table presentation. Third repair, bathroom retiling. This one is a little more nuanced because sometimes retiling is absolutely the right call. But here's where people consistently overpay and overscope this project. A homeowner sees grout that looks dark and dingy, maybe a couple of tiles that have cracked, and they decide the whole bathroom needs to be redone. They pull permits, they demo everything, they buy new tile, new backer board, new fixtures, and 6 weeks later, they've spent $12,000 on a hall bathroom. And the underlying problem that caused the cracked tiles and the stained grout in the first place, nobody addressed it. Here's the thing. Tile doesn't just randomly crack. Grout doesn't turn black because it's old. These are usually symptoms of something else. Cracked tile in a shower floor often means the subfloor underneath has flex in it, which means moisture has gotten in at some point and compromised the structure. Dark, stained grout almost always means the grout was never sealed, or the sealer wore off and was never reapplied. If you demo and retile without addressing those root causes, you will be in the exact same situation in 5 to 7 years. What should you do? Before you commit to a full retile, have someone assess the actual structure. Push on the floor in the shower. Does it flex? That's a problem. Look at the caulk in the corners between the wall tile and the floor. Is it cracked? Missing? That gap is where water gets in and starts working its way through your backer board and subfloor. If the structure is solid and the tile itself is in decent condition, you can regrout, reseal, and replace individual cracked tiles for a fraction of the cost of a full gut. I've seen bathrooms that looked completely transformed for under $500 because someone took the time to regrout and deep clean, rather than immediately swinging a demo hammer. Now, don't get me wrong. If the backer board is wet, if the subfloor is compromised, if you've got mold showing up in the wall cavity, you need to gut it. That's not optional. But get a real assessment first, not a quote from a tile contractor who makes money when you say yes to a full retile. Ask specifically whether the structure is sound. If they won't answer that question directly, get a second opinion. The fourth repair that homeowners throw money at without getting the full picture is HVAC work, specifically replacing a furnace or air conditioning unit when the real problem is the ductwork. This is one of the most common and most expensive misdiagnoses in residential construction, and it happens constantly. Your house isn't cooling evenly. One bedroom is always hot. Your energy bills are high. You call an HVAC company, they take a look at the equipment, and they tell you the unit is old and inefficient, and a new system will solve your problem. And maybe they're right, but maybe they're not even looking at the right thing. Ductwork is the distribution system for your entire HVAC. If it's leaking, if it's undersized, if it was routed poorly when the house was built, it doesn't matter how efficient your new unit is. You are conditioning the air inside your walls and attic instead of inside your rooms. Studies from the Department of Energy have consistently shown that duct leakage in the average home results in somewhere between 20 and 30% of conditioned air being lost before it even reaches the living space. You can put a brand new 98% efficiency furnace in a house with leaky ducts and barely move the needle on comfort or energy bills. Here's a pro tip. Before you approve an HVAC equipment replacement, ask the contractor about duct leakage testing. It's called a duct blaster test, and it literally pressurizes the duct system and measures how much air is escaping where it shouldn't. If they look at you blankly or immediately steer the conversation back to equipment, call someone else. A good HVAC contractor should be talking to you about the whole system, not just the box in your basement or on your roof. Now, sometimes the equipment really is the problem. If your system is 15 to 20 years old and you've got documentation of regular maintenance and the ducts have been checked and they're reasonably tight, then yeah, replacing aging equipment makes sense. But do the diagnostic work first. The duct repair might cost you $1,500 and solve 80% of your problem without touching the equipment at all. The fifth repair. And this one I want you to really pay attention to because it goes in two very different directions for different homeowners. Foundation cracks. Some of you are about to spend $15,000 on a repair that doesn't need to happen yet. And some of you are about to ignore something that absolutely cannot wait. The tricky part is knowing which situation you're actually in. Here's the reality of foundation cracks. Most homes develop cracks over time. Concrete settles, it expands, it contracts with temperature cycles, and it develops hairline cracks that look alarming but are completely normal. A vertical crack in a poured concrete wall that has been stable for years is almost always a shrinkage crack. It's cosmetic. You can seal it to prevent water intrusion and move on. A contractor who quotes you 5 figures to stabilize a foundation based on a visual inspection of a vertical hairline crack is either being overly cautious or they're not being honest with you. But here's what you cannot ignore. Horizontal cracks in a block or poured foundation wall are a different conversation entirely. Stair-step cracks in brick or block that are actively growing. Cracks that are wider at one end than the other. Doors and windows that have suddenly started sticking in rooms where they never did before. Floors that have developed a noticeable slope in the last year or two. These are signs that something is actively moving, and active movement in a foundation needs a structural engineer's eyes on it, not a waterproofing company, not a foundation repair contractor who has a financial interest in selling you piers and wall anchors. An actual licensed structural engineer who can evaluate what's happening and give you an unbiased opinion. The diagnostic fee for a structural engineer consultation typically runs between $300 and $600. That might be the best money you spend this year, because they will either tell you the foundation is fine and you've been worried for nothing, or they'll identify the actual scope of the problem and you can make a real decision based on facts. Don't let a salesperson walk through your basement and quote you $20,000 in repair work without that independent professional opinion first. And please, don't ignore crack that are growing just because the repair sounds expensive. A failing foundation gets dramatically more expensive the longer you wait. Look, every one of these 5 situations has one thing in common. The homeowner is working with incomplete information at the moment they're being asked to make an expensive decision. And I'm not saying every contractor is trying to take advantage of you. Most aren't. But this industry has a fundamental information gap. You know your house. They know construction. And if you don't know the right questions to ask, that gap costs you money. Tell me in the comments which one of these you are about to do, because I guarantee at least one of them is already on your repair list. I read every comment and I answer a lot of them. So drop your situation down there if you want a real opinion. A good renovation comes down to solving the actual problem, not just the visible symptom. Get the test. Get the second opinion. Ask who benefits from the recommendation you're receiving. That habit alone will save you more money over the life of your home than almost any single upgrade you can make. Hit like subscribe, and share this with someone who's about to write a big check because they need to see it first. I'll catch you in the next one.